Welcome back everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're dealing with another seasonal championship. This one's called Well Seasoned, and we're going to be in A-Class cars from the UK. Unfortunately it's not going to be this car because this is the Aston Martin 177, and yeah, this is in S1 class. So yeah, but it is a fantastic car that's been added to this game by the current festival's playlist. So yeah, well worth getting it because yeah, it's an amazing car. It's easily one of Aston Martin for best. Massive V12 engine, more than 700 horsepower, yeah, easily their most powerful road-going car as well. So yeah, well worth getting it for that Aston Martin, or just well worth getting it for like quick, supercars. So yeah, but we should have plenty of other fun cars to drive in this championship as well, like some Jaguar, Aston Martin, Jaguar. So I think I said Jaguar there twice there. So we're thinking of Eagle. We should have the Eagle Speedster to try out in that class as well. So yeah, I have plenty of nice cars to drive, and yeah, pretty fun as well. Oh yeah, Bentley.
In 400 yards, turn right.
So yeah, let's get there in this 750 horsepower monster.
Turn right.
Yeah, like I said, it's still Aston Martin's most powerful road car that we've ever made, even if it was a little bit expensive given, you know, the session was only 2 years prior to this coming out and the like. So yeah, not good timing on Aston Martin's part, but I'm glad it got released regardless.
Your destination.
Right, so let's see where we're going to be racing. We're going to be racing in. So yeah, one near the highway, well, one on the highway, and one obviously in the swamp right now. So yeah, we've got a couple of Aston Martin, or 3 Aston Martins to choose from. Obviously we've got the Aero Nomad as well, but I think that's a bit underpowered for A-Class, quite frankly. So yeah, we've got the DBX, the DB11, and the V12 Vantage S. The Vantage there being a fantastic car. Big V12 engine in a small car that typically only had a V8 in it. And then we've got the Bentley Continental Super Sports and the Bentayga. We've got the Caterham Superlight. The Speedster from Eagle. Now I do apologise for some not having their headlights. It's a glitch that still hasn't been rectified in this game, where you paint the car or you upgrade the car, you do anything really with the car and it ends up glitching the lights out for some reason. Then we've got a brace of Jaguars. We've got the I-Pace, the F-Type Project 7, the XKRS, which is a fantastic car, the F-Type R-Coupe, the XKRS, the XFRS, the XJ220 and the XJ13. Really like the XJ13, more than 500 horsepower from the late 60s is pretty damn spectacular, even though obviously it was only a one-off and a racer. Then we've got the Land Rover Range Rover Sport SVR, we've got 3 Lotuses, can't believe we've got these, XEGS, Elise GT1 and the Elise Series 1. We're well overdue having a new Lotus on these games, so hopefully we'll get one from them soon. Then the Mini John Cooper Works GP, the 302 horsepower version, so yeah, fantastic car. And then the TVR Sagaris, which is one of the older cars here, to be honest. But yeah, we're going to start off with the Eagle Speedster, because it's again, like the Aston Martin 177, a new addition to this game. And it's a fantastic car, 330 horsepower from an old school 4.7 litre inline 6 engine. And yeah, weighs barely 2,300 pounds. So yeah, it's a fantastic car, and I've actually found that this is actually a really good car to race in fully upgraded A-Class online. It's, yeah, surprisingly really good in that class, which is kind of unusual. Usually cars are better in a class above what they're in stock form, but this, even, yeah, more PI to play with, is really well great in A-Class. So yeah, I highly recommend trying this out online if you haven't already in A-Class. Not sure what it's like in S1 or above, but yeah, it's a cracking car to drive in that class, and surprisingly effective. So yeah, let's see what we can do here. Obviously this is made to somewhat look like a Jaguar E-Type, but it's not made by Jaguar, so I can't pick a Jaguar, quite frankly, given that this is a technical one. It does look like Jags are the more popular car make here. Yeah, I love how lightweight this car is, and yet it's still got a lot of power. and even more in the way of torque, because as you can see, a quite a low revving engine, but it still packs a punch. And it sounds pretty good as well. You can't even call this a resto mod because it's not based on a real car, to my knowledge at least. So yeah, it's basically a car built from the ground up. And yeah, Eagle have done a fantastic job with this. You can see why it costs so much. It was what, like £800,000 or something like that. And you don't even get a roof, but yeah, you can just see that they've put a lot of effort into this, interior wise, into the engineering, to the handling, and the fact that it's got a really good old school approach to it. It's not overly powered either. It's just right in pretty much every regard. Although as you can see, that Range Rover with 200 odd horsepower extra is more than able to keep up with us, despite us weighing less than half that. Careful, Sunshine. Yeah, we're no doubt better in the corners than the Range Rover, but that car is pretty formidable in a straight line given its weight and size. But you can't beat old school handling and lack of weight, and you still got a decent rate of power. So yeah, pretty good win there. Not too difficult, I guess. We've definitely had more difficult first races on a championship before, but it's pretty fun regardless, especially given we were quite close with the Range Rover for a fair bit. So yeah, nonetheless, let's get on to the second race and see if we can do just as well. Right, so the Eagle Speedster did us really rather well there, so yeah, we've got plenty of other cars to choose from, and yeah, so a fair bit of deliberating as well. Now obviously we were in the Eagle, which as we already know is based on the look of a Jaguar E-Type. I am tempted by the XJ13 just because it is a fantastic car, but I think we'll break up the Jaguar or Jaguar lookalikes for a little bit and go for an Aston Martin or a Bentley. Eeny meeny. Tempted to drive the DBX because again it's another car that has been added to the game via Car Pass or Festival Playlist or whatever. But it is an SUV, and SUVs typically aren't particularly fun to drive in a lot of ways. And then we've got the DB11, which is fairly good, but then the Vantage, which is excellent, and then the Continental, which, yeah, pure brute force that car in terms of horsepower and the fact it weighs more than £5,000. And it's a fairly decent handling car, as you can see. It's better handling than the DBX, but obviously it's not quite as good as the other two Aston Martins, but fairly good. But it is a little bit on the sedate side, I feel, in terms of its handling. Well, since I like it so much, we're going to go for the V12 Vantage. The DB11 for me, even though it's got a fair, decent amount of power, it just weighs way too much for what is, at the end of the day, a two-door coupe. It should be a lot lighter than that. So we're going to go for the V12 Vantage. Yes, it's got less power, but it also weighs a lot less, and yeah, fantastic car in the fact that they've been able to squeeze such a large engine in such a small car, near 6-litre V12 engine, when typically I think it was like a 4-litre V8 or 4.2-litre V8 that it used to have. So yeah, fantastic car, really good in terms of handling and braking, and yeah, pretty good in terms of top speed as well. And yeah, can always appreciate, trying to sling a massive engine in a car that never was meant for it. Because as you can see, they've had to do a fair bit of modifying to get that engine in there, with all those vents that are on the bonnet, just to keep the car cool. It's not for looks or anything like that. Yeah, sounds great as well. Although I do wish we could have the V8 version of this car, because that also has an amazing sounding engine in it. Can't remember if we've ever had that version of the Vantage in one of these Forza games, but I would love to have that in a game as well. Which, as per usual, comes back to my long-held belief that these games should have a car options list for each car out there. Because you typically would have an options list for buying a car, so why not have that in a game? You have all sorts of versions of the same cars, while not cluttering up the car list with multiple versions of the same car, as we have seen plenty of times before. Different versions of the same generation of Nissan GTR, for instance, which, yeah, I think we've got 3 versions of the same generation of Nissan GTR. You could easily bunch them all together and choose from different versions of those cars and effectively save room for them for other cars. Regardless, this is a fantastic car. Weighs a bit much for what is quite a small car, but still got plenty of power to make up for that if we don't hit the tree. Didn't realise I was understeering that much there. Yeah, if it's a car that's nearly a decade old now, it's no slouch. It does feel like a car with just an engine and a driver's seat, quite frankly. Blitzing down this straight. No SUV is going to keep up with this. Now I know they've added in the 177 to this game, which is fantastic because that was a bit of a big mark on Aston Martin in this game. It's a pretty substantial car from them. But I've always wanted the original Vanquish to be added to a Forza game again. It's been a long time since we've had that car, and I know it's flawed to hell, because its gearbox is pretty jerky, its flappy paddle gearbox that is, so yeah, but I still love that car and I love the look of it, and I wish it was back in one of these Forza games. But regardless, the Vantage there has given us another win, given us the 40 points, meaning we're 10 points ahead of the Lotus Exige S and 14 points ahead of the standard F-Type, or, you know, the non-Project 7 F-Type. So yeah, nonetheless, let's get on to the third and final race and see if we can keep up this winning streak. Right, so as we talked about before we started the previous race, we are going to get in the Jaguar XJ13. Bit of a risk, obviously, because it is the oldest car here, and obviously, therefore, the handling and the braking is going to be quite up to scratch as more modern cars. And obviously, we're not going to be going up against, you know, lower class, A-class vehicles, because obviously we're at 779 in terms of the PI, so we're obviously quite high up. We're nearly as high up as the XJ220. Or the I-Pace, or even the V12 Vantage, which obviously has more power and is a lot newer. So yeah, obviously that is going to be a downside, but the upside is the fact that we weigh less than 2,600 pounds. We've got more than 500 horsepower from a 5-litre V12 engine, and yeah, we've got quite a lot in the realm of top speed. But obviously, it's all about whether or not we can actually get up to that top speed. But at least we've got that option, and yeah, it is obviously quite lightweight, and we saw how much lack of weight helped with the legal speeds in the first race. So hopefully we do well. I think this is the first time I've actually raced this on a video. Yeah, it's a glorious car. It's nearly 8,000 RPM as well. Long gears, because that's how they got top speed back in the day. Giving long gears. We're up against one of the Forza Edition cars. It's a Mini. It's actually one of my favourite, probably my absolute favourite Forza Edition version of a car in this game, because it's all electric. Which is the kind of thing I wish they would do on Forza Edition cars, is completely change what a car is about from its standard version. And yeah, that's a real fun car to drive. And all of that electric power and instant torque and the like in such a small lightweight car. It's really fun to drive. Highly recommend trying it out if you haven't already. I imagine most people don't realise it's an all electric Mini. There's no real indication of that outside of obviously the lack of cubic capacity. And the stats on the car roster, so yeah, do try it if you can. Speaking of electric, we've got an I-Pace up front. We're basically future versus past. The electric cars are the future over the car industry, and we're driving in a 1960s car that really isn't the future of anything. Not when I lose concentration, that is, especially. But obviously there is some speculation about whether or not electric cars are going to be the future, because if they crack the whole synthetic fuel thing that they were trying to get going, then there will be no need for electric cars. So that might well be another option. Obviously it all depends on whether or not synthetic fuels are all that environmentally friendly to create, and how easy they are to make, and whether or not they'll fit every car going, quite frankly. Got in front of the I-Pace, that's all that matters, probably because it doesn't have all that much in the way of top speed. It does have more modern brakes and tyres. Love the sound of this thing. Live with this I-Pace. Absolutely glorious. And on a tidal wave of V12 noise, we get a win. Yeah, that's a fantastic car. If you've not tried out the XJ13, then I do highly recommend it. It's not like it's a car that you're ever going to be able to drive in real life, or like to ever even see in real life, because only the one were made. So yeah, but regardless, we've got the full 60 points for the series, ahead of the I-Pace by 14 points, and ahead of the TVR Sagaris by 24 points. So yeah, really fun championship, but at the end of the day it does give you 5 points towards the festival place overall, which means you're 5 points closer towards getting that fantastic Aston Martin 177, which yeah, I do highly recommend getting, because it's a superb car, and yeah, easily one of the best that Aston Martin have made. But yeah, regardless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.